Good morning, students. Welcome to today's class. Today we are going to discuss regarding the fundamentals of lathe machines and its operations. Okay, you all know about my name, Viresh Kumar Kes. I am presently working as assistant professor in Jain Institute of Technology, Davangere. Let's start the class. So before going to the lathe operations, so first we have to understand what is manufacturing process. Okay, what is this manufacturing process? Actually, we have heard about this manufacturing process in many areas. For any product, we require the manufacturing sector where we have to manufacture the products. Okay, so what is this manufacturing process? The manufacturing process may be defined as a process of converting the raw materials into your finished products. Means you have some raw materials. For example, you have a metal raw material. So from that you are converting it to some frames, some metals or some other type of mechanical devices. So like that you are going to convert. So the manufacturing process is nothing but the process of converting the raw materials into your finished products of required size and shape depending upon the various processes and methods. Okay. So in the manufacturing process, we have different sectors we are going to discuss in here. So first one is the primary manufacturing process, second one is the secondary manufacturing process, and third is the tertiary manufacturing process. So what is this primary manufacturing process? In the primary manufacturing process, we have the metal forming process. Okay, metal forming process means what is this metal forming? So we have some operations like rolling, forging, casting. Means this is the initial process, means initial manufacturing process where we are going to make the metal forming. Okay, where the metal is going to be initially going to be converted into some required shapes. Okay, where the rolling is one of the process, forging is the process, and casting is the process. Means each process having its own different methods of making the products. So if you are going to understand this, you have to go in depth in this type of processes. Now we just have the brief introduction regarding this. Next, in the secondary manufacturing process, the metal cutting process. Okay, so in here, whatever the process which is obtained from the primary manufacturing, we can use it for the metal cutting process, means machining process. You are heard about that in the lathe machines. We are converting the raw materials into some required shapes. So that is by using the metal cutting process. Okay, so that is also called as a machining processes, such as slot cutting, facing, plane turning. Many operations will come in this whatever the area. Next, tertiary manufacturing process. In this process, the metal fabrication and finishing process takes place. Means metal for fabrication and finishing process is going to be takes place in the tertiary manufacturing process. What are those? Joining processes such as welding, okay, joining. So in the welding we have different types of welding. Fabrication process. In the fabrication process we are having the different fabricating methods where we are going to fabricate the metals. Then grinding and surface finishing operations which are going to be done in this whatever the metal fabrication and finishing process. This is the tertiary manufacturing process. So machine tools. What is this machine tools? Why we are going to deal with this machine tools? When a machine performs the metal cutting operation by the cutting tools mounted on them, they are called as machine tools. Means when any machines, okay, so generally if you take an example such as lathe machine, drilling machine, shaping machine, okay, so these machines what it is going to do? The machine performs the metal cutting operation. Means these are the things which are going to cut the metal, means for a required size and shape. By cutting the tool, by the cutting tools, means how it is going to cut the metal? Using a cutting tools. Means there is some cutting tools which are harder than the base metal or whatever the metal you are forming. So that metal, whatever the cutting tool is more harder than them. So that cutting tools are mounted on that whatever the machines, and that complete setup is called as a machine tool. Means the lathe machine is one of the machine tool. The drilling machine is also called as a machine tool. Shaping machine. So these are the machine tools which are used to cut the metals by the help of cutting tools. Okay. A machine tool may be defined as a power driven machine which accomplishes the cutting or machining operations on it. Means it is one of another definition. The machine tool may be defined as a power driven machine. Means it requires a power to drive the machine. Means if you want to use the lathe machine, you require the motor, so the motor requires the electricity, or it may be require the some engines to operate to give the rotational energy. So like that, it's a power driven machine, accomplishes the cutting and machining operations on it. The machine tools used for the most of the machining process are lathe, drilling, planing, milling and grinding machines. Some of the most basic operations it's in here, given in here: lathe machines, drilling machines, planing machines, milling machine and grinding machines. Okay, so these are the machine tools. So now we move on to the main topic, that is the lathe machine tool. So whatever the image you are seeing in the video, it is generally a lathe machine. So you can see this is the lathe machines where different operations, the machining operations can be performed in here. Okay, the lathe is one of the oldest machine tool used to produce the cylindrical objects. So this lathe machines is mainly used to make the cylindrical objects. Okay, such as shafts. Okay, shafts is going to be converted into size change or shape change, or in the shafts you require some slots or tapering. Everything you can do done in this whatever the machine tool. Means if you want threads, so you generally see the threads on the different shafts, such as bolts. Okay, so in the bolts also you can make the perform the threading operations in the lathe machines. The main function of the lathe is to removal of metal from workpiece of work to give its required shape and size. So that is the main work, means removal of metal from the workpiece of a work. The work is nothing but the job, whatever the specimen which you are using to change its shape. So that is called as a work. To give it a required shape and size, means we require some shape. Okay, so it's having a bigger shape, so we require some smaller shape. It's have different size, we have to reduce the size, so that can be performed. This is accomplished by holding the work securely rigidly on the machine and then turning it against the cutting tool, which will remove the material from the work in the form of chips. Okay, so how it's going to be done, that material machining operations? So first we have to hold the work, that is nothing but the job, in this whatever the firmly holding device. Okay, this device is called as a chuck. Okay, so it may be 3-jar chuck or a 4-jar chuck, where you are going to fix the work and you are going to perform the cutting operations. Okay, by using the cutting tool. So the cutting tool is placed on this carry edge. Okay, to cut the material properly, the tool should be harder than that of the material of the workpiece. Okay, so that is very important. Means if you are having the job which is of mild steel, then you have to use high speed cutting tool or carbon cutting tools. Why? Because it is harder than the mild steel. Okay, so the harder than the mild steel cutting tools can cut the softer materials, means metals. So that can be achieved. If you have vice versa, means if the job is very harder, but cutting tool is softer, then cutting tool is going to get cutted. Okay, it's not going to cut the actual work. So that should be maintained properly. The principal working of lathe machine tool. How it's principle of working machine tool? Okay, you can see the images in here. This is the cutting tool. This is the workpiece. Okay, this is the rotation or direction of the workpiece. It is voltage at some point, and the feed of the cutting tool is in this direction. This is shown in here. Okay, the lathe machine is one of the most important machine tool which is used in the metalworking industries. Okay, it operates on the principle of rotating workpiece and fixed cutting tool. So that is the very important principle of this lathe machine. You can see here, this is the workpiece which is rotating. This is the cutting tool which is stationary. Means it is moving but it is not rotating. Okay, so in here the operations, the principle of rotating workpiece and a fixed cutting tool. The cutting tool is fixed, so that's why this type of operations is going to take place. In here the workpiece is rotating, cutting tool is fixed, and it's moving in linear directions. Okay, not in circular directions. The cutting tool is fed into the workpiece which rotates about its own axis, causing the workpiece to form the desired shape. Okay, so in here the workpiece is rotating with respect to its axis. Means it's having an axis of rotation. So with respect to that it is rotating, and the cutting tool is cutting according to the direction it is given, and it is forming the shape of that is desired shape in the workpiece. So classifications of lathe machine tools. What are the different classifications? We have different types of lathes, that is speed lathe, engine lathe, bench lathe, tool room lathe, capstan and turret lathe, special purpose lathe, automatic lathe, and CNC lathe. Means we have different types of lathe machines. Means according to the applications, according to the speed, according to the amount of work it has to be done. So that's why the different classifications of lathe machines are going to be considered in here. So construction of center lathe. So we are first considering the speed lathe or center lathe. So the same, both are same thing. So what are the elements which are present in this center lathe? So you can see very important elements of the center lathe is headstock. Okay, so this is the headstock of the lathe machine, where you can find the different pulleys. Okay, so those pulleys are connected to the spindle. So as these pulleys are it's also connected to the driving motors, okay, or driving engine. So that is the headstock, and it is connected to the spindle. So this shaft is called as a spindle. So this is having the rotating element, that is the holding element, it's called as a chuck. Okay, this is the headstock. So main element present in the headstock is the pulleys, gear mechanism for the speed variations, and it is connected to the motor for the power driven. So there is the headstock. Next is the tailstock. Okay, so this is the tailstock. So where you can see this is the device which is shown in here, it is called as a tailstock. Tailstock is mainly used to hold the lengthier workpieces. Okay, so if the workpiece is this much lengthier, so there is a chance of buckling. If it's only hold it at this point, if the length of the workpiece is more, then if it rotates at a higher speed, there is a more chance of buckling. Buckling is nothing but the bending of specimen takes place in the while rotation operation. So the tailstock is the device which is used to hold that other portion of the workpiece and giving its the proper support on its rotating process. Okay, so that the important work of tailstock is to give the support to the lengthier shafts and avoid the buckling of the workpieces. Okay, so this is the tailstock. Okay, next the center element, which is called as a carriage. Okay, this element is called as a carriage. So this carriage is a very important element of whatever the lathe, where the cutting tool is going to be operated, directed, and the feeding operations also going to be done in this whatever the carriage. Okay, so what are the elements present in this carriage? So in the carriage, for to move this carriage in these two directions, we require hand wheel. So it rotates with respect to the lead screw. This carriage is going to be moved from one direction to another direction, and then afterwards we have the cross slide. So to give the linear or perpendicular direction movement to the tool, we require this cross slide. Then we have the compound rest. In the compound rest, we can give the angular directions. So that is the usage of compound rest. And you can have the tool post. This is very important. In this tool post, we are going to fix the tool. Okay, so the cutting tool is going to be fixed on this tool post. So these are the elements which are present in the this sort of the carriage. Okay, and to support this headstock, tailstock, and carriage, we have the whatever the supporting legs. Okay, these are the supporting legs, which is also called as a bed. These supporting legs are very much made of cast irons to have that shocking forces, to avoid the shocking forces, and have the firm grip for all the elements present in lathe. So this is the leg, this is the bed. Okay, so this is the feed rod. Okay, you can see the feed rod. So by that the feeding operation of the carriage can be done in the sort of the center lathe. So these are the very general parts which are present in the lathe. In every lathe, almost these parts are present generally, with additional different types of parts which are going to be present in the different types of lathes. The major parts of the center lathe, as we discussed, the bed, guideways. So the bed, okay, what is the bed? Again I am going to. So this is the bed. On this bed we have the guideways. The guideways are to guide the tailstock to move to and fro. Okay, so that is the guideways. Next, headstock. As we discussed, headstock is presenting the prime movers, the pulleys, gear mechanisms, okay, which are present in the headstock. Then tailstock. The tailstock is mainly used to support the lengthier workpieces. Okay, then lathe bed. So lathe bed is used to support that whatever the carriage, headstock and the tailstock. Next is the carriage assembly. So carriage assembly is to move to and fro movement for the feeding of the cutting tool. Then driving mechanisms and feeding mechanisms. Okay, so driving mechanisms which are used to drive the whatever the spindle, and feeding mechanisms are mainly used to feed the cutting tool towards the work pieces. Okay, so lathe operations. What are the lathe operations can be seen on the lathe? Okay, first one is the facing. Okay, facing. We will discuss one by one detailedly. Facing, turning, step turning, taper turning, knurling, thread cutting, drilling, counter sinking, counter forming, and boring, etc. Actually, we have shown only 10 operations in here. We can do many operations. Hundreds of operations can be done in the lathe by using the lathe machine. Okay, so it's having that much of capacity. Facing. So first operation, that is facing. How the facing is going to be done? Okay, you can see in the facing, the operation of machining the end of the piece of the work to produce the flat surfaces perpendicular to with the axis, means at the end of the workpiece. So this is the chuck where the workpiece is holded. At the end of the workpiece, you can see the tool is moving in this direction. So you can see the feed. The feed is in this direction. It is perpendicular to the axis of rotation. So that type of movement which will result in cutting of a workpiece at the end and to create the flat surfaces. If it is any irregular surfaces present on this area, that can be removed and can be made as flat surfaces. Okay, so this is the feed. Okay, so this is called as a facing. This is also used to cut the workpiece to required length. Means if you want to reduce the length of the workpiece, you can do this facing operation. The operation involves feeding the tool perpendicular to the axis of rotation. Okay, the regular cutting tool may be used to facing a large workpiece. Regular whatever the cutting tools are going to be used. The cutting edge should be set at the same height as the center of the workpiece. So this is very important. Okay, the cutting tool should be at the same height. Means the cutting tool is at this point, means this axis should be at the same point. The cutting point, the axis of that whatever the workpiece should be at the same height. Means if it lets, then proper facing is not going to be achieved. Okay, the properly grounded facing tool is mounted in the tool holder in the tool post to accomplish the facing operations. Okay, so these are the things are going to be done in the facing. Then in the turning operations. So in the turning operation, what are the things are going to be there? Okay, so the process of metal removal from the cylindrical job is called as straight or plane turning. Means in the cylindrical surface, we have to remove the metal. So that type of operation is called as a turning operation. You can see here. So this is a cylindrical surface. The cutting tool approaches the tool and it is removing the metal in the cylindrical way. Means whatever the cylindrical surface is, reducing its means diameter of the tool, whatever the workpiece is going to be reduced in this operation. That is called as a turning operation. Actually, this is called as a plane turning operations. Means the planar turning operation is going to be there. In here, the tool is moving parallel to the axis of rotation. The tool is moving. This is the axis of rotation. The tool is also moving in this direction. So it is parallel. So that is called as it's moving in a parallel to the direction of axis of rotation. Okay. The cross slide and the carriage are used to perform the turning operations. In here, the cross slide is very important. So and carriage. So both are going to be did. Cross slide is used for the feeding. Carriage is used for the direction. Means if you are going to give the direction in the parallel to the axis of rotation, that can be done in the carriage. So operation make the operation faster and economical. The plane turning operations are generally performed in 2 steps, rough and finish turning. So initially what we do, the first step is rough turning. Means rough turning is same process is going to be done by leaving some amount of material on the surface to have the finish turning. Means finish turning, we have the smaller feed and depth of cut. By that we can achieve the better finishing. Okay, so that's why it's called as a finish turning. Okay, knurling. Okay, the next operation we are going to do in this whatever the lathe machine is, it is called as a knurling. Knurling is an operation performed on the lathe to generate the serrated surfaces on the workpiece. Means serrated surfaces. You can see this type of whatever the shape which are appearing in here. Okay, so in this shape, what happens by using knurling tool, you can create this type of shape, diamond engraved shape on the surface. Why we are making this type of shape? To have the better grip on that area. Yes? In some applications we want the better grip to hold that area, to have the different operation. So that type of thing means for example micrometer, screw gauge. Okay, so where you require some gripping elements, where you can use this type of knurling operation. Okay, you can see here, this is used for the produce of rough surface for the gripping, like barrels of the micrometer or screw gauge. This is done by the special tool called knurling tool. So this tool is called as a knurling tool. You can see this type of shape which is going to be there. We have the two types of tools which will be there, which will form the diamond shape operation here. Okay. So next is the taper turning. So what is this taper turning? Okay, the workpiece which is requires steep taper for short length, the taper turning was done by swelling the compound rest method. Okay, you can see here on the cylindrical surface you want the taper turning. So if you want the taper turning operations on the cylindrical surface. So in this area, in this type of operation, you are going to use this the compound rest. Okay, okay. You can see this is the compound rest. Okay, this compound rest is going to be inclined at some angle. Okay, this is inclined at angle. So this angle is going to be calculated with respect to the formula. The taper angle is calculated by tan alpha is equal to d minus d by 2a. Okay, so that is going to be calculated, and by that you are going to angle of whatever the taper, and you are going to fix this compound rest according to that angle. The circular scale is going to be given on the lathe compound rest, and you are going to fix that. With that, you are going to make this tool, and you are going to give the feed. Okay, by rotating this wheel, and you are going to give the feed. So in this direction. So as it given in this feed, it is rotating in this direction, and this removes the material in angular phase. So that operation is called as a taper turning. So in here the same thing is going to be given in here. So you are rotating the knob. By that this feed is going to be given, and it is making the taper turning. Okay. So this is called as a taper turning. Next is called as a thread cutting. Okay, so you have heard about the threads. Many bolts, nuts, you are going to see the threads. So threads are the elements which are very much used for the joining of any parts. Okay, so the bolts, nuts, screws, we will find there. The thread cutting on the lathe is a process that produces the helical ridge of uniform section on the workpiece. Okay, this is the helical ridge. Okay, helical ridge which is going to be performed on the cylindrical surface. This is performed by taking the successive cuts with the threading tool bit in the same shape as the thread form requires. Okay, so this operation is going to be done. Okay, you can see in this small video. So where the tool is moving in this direction, and it is making the helical cutting over this the circular surface. Okay, so this operation need the thread cutting in here. For to make the thread cutting, we have to reduce the speed. Okay, you have to reduce the speed of the lathe, and you have to engage the speed to the lead screw. Okay, lead screw of the machine. So as it connected, the lead screw directs that the movement to have the uniform helical grooving, which is going to be created on the shaft. Okay, so that can be performed in the thread cutting operation. You can see here. The pitch, it is nothing but the distance between the two crust or thrust of this the thread edges. Okay, so that is called as pitch. That is also be decided with respect to the calculation, and the angle is also only decided with respect to the angle of the cutting tool. Okay, then afterwards feed is in this direction, and this is the rotation in this direction. Okay, so this is the thread cutting operation. Other operations which are going to be done in the lathe machines, which is drilling. Okay, it is also called as a central drill. Okay, where the drill bit is going to be connected to the this tool tailstock, where the drill bit is connected to the dead center, and it is removing the material and making the hole at the center shaft. Okay, this is called as a drilling. Next, in here the countersinking. In here the countersinking, we are making the enlargement at an angular level in the end of the hole. The hole is created initially. For that, we are making the countersink with giving the angular tool. Next, boring, cutting, counter boring. In here, you are enlarging the dia at the end. Initially, you are enlarging the dia at the end. So that is called as a counter boring. And counter forming, you are creating some shapes, okay, on the drilled hole. So that is called as a counter forming. So like that, we are going to make the different operations. You can see this is a chuck, this is a workpiece which is holding the chuck is holding the workpiece, and this is a drill chuck, this is a tailstock. So for to operate tailstock, means whatever the drill bit, we are using this wheel of a tailstock. As it is moved, it moves in this direction and make the hole at the end. Okay. So this is called as a twist drill bit. Okay. This tool is called as a twist drill bit. So this type of operations are going to be performed in the lathe machine. Okay. Thank you, students. I hope you got a lot of information regarding the lathe machines and its operations and its principle of operation. Okay. I think for any queries, if you have any doubts, please comment on the section. Okay. Happy learning. For better videos and for future video information, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.